Welcome to Pennsylvania in Focus. I'm Kristen Smith, Pennsylvania editor for the Center Square, and with me today is the Center Square's Pennsylvania reporter, Anthony Hennon. We were back in the Senate this week, which was after a 3-month break, and there wasn't a lot budget-wise done because, as we've covered in many episodes, there's still a stalemate going on. But there was some action on a pilot program that we have happening for speed camera enforcement. So, Anthony, why don't you tell us a little bit about what these programs are?
Yeah, so these laws, these sunset provisions, date back to 2018. Back then, 2 laws were passed, Act 86 and Act 158, basically doing a trial of these speed cameras. One of them essentially sets up speed cameras in active work zones. Another sets up speed cameras along Roosevelt Boulevard in Philadelphia. And the third basically puts cameras on school buses to see if anyone is violating the stop sign when it goes out from the bus to pick up children. The problem is that the Senate needs to move fast on updating these so that they don't expire. There seems to be bipartisan support for all 3 of these laws. But the school bus camera law expires next month, October 24th. The speed camera law for Roosevelt Boulevard in Philadelphia expires December 18th. And then speed cameras in active work zones expire February 16th. So essentially, if they don't act soon, then these will expire and they'll have to go through the entire process again. But basically, both on the state level and the local level, we heard officials during the Senate Transportation Committee hearing on Monday argue that these have been good, they've made a difference, they've saved lives, and they've slowed down drivers.
So given the relative success of these programs, it sounds like it's not a question of if we will continue doing them, but more or less what little changes can we make to make them better. Is that a correct assessment of what's going on here?
Yeah, for the most part. Just speaking and throwing out some data here on the level of Philadelphia and Roosevelt Boulevard, after putting up these speed cameras, Mike Carroll, who is Deputy Managing Director for Transportation, Infrastructure, and Sustainability in Philadelphia, he said, we've seen incredible benefits from enforcement. Roosevelt Boulevard saw 21% fewer fatal injuries and 64% fewer pedestrian crashes. Violations fell by 95%. But really what kind of pops up with some of the concerns here, not so much with Roosevelt Boulevard, but from these work zone cameras, they're a little concerned about how they're carrying out on the administrative level. We heard from Senator Rosemary Brown, who have heard from citizens complaining that they've had little notice. They won't necessarily get warnings before getting a citation. So it's a little tricky in terms of how this is operating. So Brown pointed to one issue being the appeal process for tickets. The window to appeal is too short, sometimes simply because these warnings or these citations can take a while to actually reach motorists at their home. Another concern is that having multiple vehicles registered to one person. So if you have a family of 4 or 5, but all the cars are registered to the father, and say the father might get a warning or the child might get a warning when they're driving. It's not everyone is getting a warning. You might get one in that family, and then it turns into a ticket. So there's some concerns over fairness there. And PennDOT seems to be at least considering those issues and taking them seriously, at least for notification to let motorists know that you're in a work zone and these signs are working. They're considering putting out some more visible signs, making them fluorescent lime green with an orange bar at the top, basically trying to make that sign more unique so it stands out to motorists so they know they need to slow down. There are safety cameras at work in this area.
Well, we'll have to keep an eye out for what happens with these bills now that the House will be back next week. And like you said, the deadlines for these provisions are coming up fast and furious. So listeners can keep up with this story and more at thecentersquare.com. For Anthony Hennon, this is Kristen Smith. Please subscribe and thanks for listening.